one man saying that is fine. If that's your opinion and you're not in it, that's fine. But there is an entire market of millions and millions of people that agree that it is a store of value. So, you can think one thing, but there's also a market, and markets tend to become efficient over time.
We do know that you will always get paid in Hex on a daily basis. And that is truly the miracle that we call Hex, because it is trustless interest, trustless yield. Nothing will stop that contract from running.
Forgot I was muted. Welcome into the Creed of Crypto podcast. I am Broke Boi Crypto. I have here with me, as always, my friend and co-host Crypto Ewok. And we have a hell of a show for you tonight. If you're just making your way in, do us a favor, hit the like button. We very much appreciate it. We have a poll in there for you tonight. And it is a topic we're going to get to because I think it's really interesting. And I think we're going to get some pretty split results on this. And that is, what do you consider the actual top of the last Bitcoin cycle? Which one was the top? What was the end of the last bull market? Because it had that infamous double top. We had one in April and then one in November, where November was technically a tad higher than April, but would be interested to hear you guys' thoughts, because that might give us a little bit of a time frame of what we should be expecting here coming up as this new bull market does take off. So I want to hear what you guys have to say there as well. We're going to get into the U.S. Fed. Are they going to be printing money? Because there's a lot of signs pointing that they are, and we have some big-time players thinking that we are going to see rate cuts begin in March of next year. So all that, a whole lot more. PulseChain is blowing off right now. Lots of great stuff going on. Ewok, how are you feeling on this fine Tuesday evening?
Feeling good. There's a lot of green candles amongst us, which is definitely always a good sign. I am getting kind of sick of seeing people arguing still. So hopefully these green candles can get this out of their system. But I'll touch on that whole thought later. But other than that, man, it's been good. Doing good. Just another day, another candle.
Yeah, and we've had some really bullish price action here these last couple of days. You're right. There's always going to be people bitching because that's just crypto, and there's a lot of young people and dumb people in here. But that's just the way it goes. DJ and Moonboy, welcome in. Again, as you guys roll in, please do hit the like. We very much appreciate it. And let's take a look at some of those prices right now that we have. So looking at the crypto market, kind of abroad, we have Bitcoin sitting at about 42.5K at the moment. ETH is just below 2,200 by the looks of it. And, it's been we had a dip in the larger crypto market here over the last week or so, but kind of rebounded up off of that. So interesting to see Bitcoin hanging out here. I thought we would see a little bit more bearish action sooner, but make no mistake, I still think we will see that. I think we get back below 40K for some time here as we get into the new year for sure. As it comes to the PulseChain ecosystem, so we have had a very nice pump, started on Sunday and really rounded out yesterday into today. Pulse is up at 40% off the SAC rate right now. Pulse X is at that 84% off by the looks of it. Still, in automatic buy mode for me. And Hex combined right at about that 1.5 cent mark total. So we, looking at our ecosystem, I don't really think we need to touch too much on what's going on with Bitcoin, because it's kind of just doing the same thing it's been doing. But as far as the Pulse ecosystem, we've had a couple things happen that may have been, I think, in part catalysts for this. There's a lot of great stuff that's been going on that I want to make sure I highlight. And one of those is that gopulse.com, which is a good resource for onboarding into PulseChain. You can buy stuff there, you can connect to it, all these things. But they actually funded an article to be published in Market Watch. They funded another one that just went out today in Yahoo Finance, which is the biggest one that they've done yet, but they've literally financed these articles on these huge finance platforms.
Right.
So yeah, PulseChain article today in Yahoo Finance, which is just huge. And yeah, I mean, some of this kind of, reaching across the aisle, if you will, or making friends with people that maybe not already be in the community, this kind of networking is huge. And then I also saw B Roots, love him or hate him, on with Crypto Banter, Ran the other day. And
Mhm.
Ran was talking to him a whole bunch about Solana and these things, talking about Bonk and all these other meme coins. And B Roots talked about how he was there to talk Pulse Chain and how he thinks it is the biggest opportunity as far as L1s go in crypto for this cycle. So what do you make of kind of those, more fundamental type things, Ewok, and about the price action we're seeing here?
Well, it's critical. I love what GoPulse is doing. The outreach that they understand that if they keep it in the echo chamber, all we're doing is just talking to ourselves, and there's not going to be any growth whatsoever. So I do like the fact that they've reached out and got on some of these presses. Yahoo Finance would probably be well, I don't know, but they're both going to be impactful, I think. Um,
Yeah.
and then, with B Roots, that outreach, and I really like how he did it. He mentioned, um, was it Solana, or was
Yeah.
it Solana?
They were talking about Solana.
Yeah, he mentioned Solana and said, how it's pumping and it's doing a great thing. And then he kind of pivoted to, but here's what I think is going to make the biggest impact. So you don't want to tear these guys apart when you're talking about their stuff, or they're not going to listen to you. They're going to block you out.
Mhm.
If you say, guys, I really like what you're doing over at Cardano, and I think there's another good play too. Something along those lines of appreciating what they're doing, but
Right.
also, introducing your opportunity as well. You never want to go in and say, well, you think shit and here's why, and then this is what's better, because
Right.
you're gonna hurt their feelings, first of all, and then they're gonna block you out. So, I like the approach that all these guys
Especially if
are
you're David Hoffman from Bankless.
Oh, yeah.
If you, I mean, I mean, you could kind of just say like, I don't like the color of your T-shirt today, and the waterworks just start.
Right. They
Yeah,
cry, and the estrogen starts flowing, and
exactly.
it's crazy. But, well,
Yeah,
some of those guys, there are some people that you're not going to get through to, but
right.
I do like the approach, and I think more people need to kind of embrace that type of approach, and reach out to other people. I know there are people that do it, and that have always done it, and in the early days they kind of got shit on for their methods. Nicole Nerd Girl, her show used to be building bridges, and honestly, that's the approach that we need to take. You've got to build bridges with some of these other communities, if you want to have them participate in our network, which we, you know, think is not an Ethereum killer. It's a supplement to it, and it's supposed to help everybody that wanted to be over there that but can't because their projects no longer, you know, it's no longer economically. It doesn't make sense, when the
Right.
fees cost so much money, and we're already approaching that point, and we haven't even started the major part of the bull run. So,
Right.
like I said, I think cross community is great for growth, and we need to do a lot more of that. But kudos to those guys. Go Pulse. Something else they did just today, when Richard put out that tweet, and I don't know if you had planned on talking about that, but
Mhm.
the tweet saying, let's give some free Pulse out. Well, not long after that, KDP said something about somebody's already started it. Like, it was within minutes.
Right.
And
Literally.
and then the Go Pulse guy said, "Hey, we're going to do something too." And she said, "Well, hey, let's do it all in one." He's like, "No, competition's better. Let's let people decide which one they want." So now they're going to do something as well. So it's just they're doing some great things, and yeah, people need to support them any way they can, whether it's just retweeting their stuff or using the products. I'm sure there's a way that they can tell metrics by usage, but yeah,
Right.
I like what they're doing. It's really cool.
The great thing about this too is, and you're right, all that stuff is cool, but this kind of stuff with this community has kind of been going on for 4 years. You know what I mean? So this has always been going on, even in the bear market, even though, obviously, yeah, you're going to see more tensions and stuff from weak hands and everything in a bear market. But this kind of behavior from a lot of the people in the community has always been there. And now, when green candles come, the price starts going up and stuff like that, it really becomes noticeable.
Yep,
And it just,
for sure.
it feels 10 times better than it did in a bear market, because it's like, man, we're all moving up and everybody's winning together and everything.
Yep.
And it's just a cool thing to see for
Yeah.
sure.
And it's
Yeah,
amazing, this community, just the type of people and the developers and the intelligence factor that we have, and just the go and do it on your own kind of mentality now.
right.
Whenever this whole thing started, Richard's like, I don't work for you. You want it done, go do it yourself. So that mentality started a long time ago. For a lot of people, it was hard to build in a bear market. But you're totally right. And we get some green candles, you're going to see people building left and right, and it's going to be pretty cool. It could also be a little dangerous, so be careful of the snakes in the grass that will come out of nowhere as well. But you're going to see why this community is far above and beyond most others. It's going to be blatantly obvious here in 6-8 months.
Yes. Yeah, I agree. And to your point about B Roots when he was on with Rand, yeah, he didn't really bash Solana or anything. And I mean, it's a fair assessment to say, like, look, and this is what he said, like, everybody's already talking about Solana. He wasn't critical at all of like the blockchain, even though certainly there are things, and there have been things to be critical about over the last couple of years. But he just talked about the price, it's already pumping, and
Yep.
everybody on crypto Twitter is already talking about it. So I
Yeah.
think it's going to be one of those leading indicators, Solana, as we get into the next bull market, not necessarily like the opportunity to get in now. I think people
Right.
have already been doing that,
Yep. Exactly.
So yeah, but awesome stuff. From a lot of people just reaching out and getting involved with people from other communities and stuff. So definitely something I think we're going to continue to see happen for sure. Taking a look at some news over the last week, and we have a whole bunch of crazy stuff that's gone on. So last Wednesday, the day after we went off the air, Janet Yellen, Secretary Yellen, Jellen like Yellen. Do you remember those commercials? It was
Yeah.
for the foot. Was that Dr. Scholl's, I think?
Yeah,
Whatever.
they were the Jellen. Yeah, I do remember them. I don't remember who it
Yeah.
was for.
Jellen like Yellen. So she probably wears Dr. Scholl's, I'd imagine, at her age. But she's the Secretary of the Treasury. She said, you DM me this whenever it happened, Ewok, but she said specifically that there is no reason for investors to feel nervous about the U.S. debt right now. So when you hear that, okay, there's no reason for you to feel nervous about the debt.
You
What would that
immediately
mean?
feel nervous.
Yeah,
Right?
exactly. So,
I mean, yeah, there's when you hear things like that, it's like, okay, we got to worry. Now we have to worry because they want us not to worry. It's always the opposite. It's funny how that
right.
works, but when you don't trust these people and what they're saying, it's like, oh no, what's going to happen now?
Well, for traditional investors, yeah, they should be worrying because the S&P 500 is at an all-time high for like the second day in a row. And yeah, after a comment like that, for people like those people, there's definitely reason to worry. And it also means that they're going to be printing money in the not too distant future, which is one of the
Yeah.
main topics of our show tonight. And that's why people should, not financial advice as always, but I think it is advisable for me anyway to get long in crypto now. I mean, this is exactly the kind of thing you want to hear. Like, she's already preparing, they're close enough to 2% CPI, if that, core inflation, if that's even a real number. They were down at 3.1 in October, November. And this all comes, and we didn't mention this, was the day after we got off the air, but this comes after the FOMC held rates again last week. Powell warned that they could hike rates again. I don't believe that for a second. I think, again, I always say it, but I think he just kind of does that, fatherly talk to make people feel, comfortable, or, caution people or whatever. I don't think they're going to hike rates again. But it leads me back to the question that we've been talking about, and when they will pivot and when they will print. And at this point, and I'm going to have you bring up an image about S&P drawdowns after a pivot. But at this point, I saw the other day, Bank of America said that they think the Fed will start to cut rates in March and have a total of 4 cuts of 25 points each time next year. So that's a whole basis point, basically, off of where we're at right now, starting in March next year. And, Bank of America, I imagine their ears are to the ground, and there's a reason they say that. I don't know. But yeah, did you want to bring up the image that you had, Ewok?
I have it up.
Got it. Sweet.
Yep.
So these are after, and I'll let you take the reins with it in a moment. But yeah, these are what happened to the S&P 500, the stock market at large, whenever the Fed did make a pivot over time. This is what we're talking about them doing potentially as early as March next year, maybe not till May, but at least, likely by mid 2024. So yeah, what do you think here?
Well, it's pretty obvious. And I don't know the time frame. This looks to be anywhere from, I would say, from the pivot to the bottom of the pullback. It looks to be 6-8 months each time. But you have 36% drop, 48% drop, 27, 51, 58, and 35. So you're already looking at an average of roughly 40% pullback each time there has been a pivot. So it's quite interesting,
That's
this
huge
one,
too.
it's huge. And that's for the S&P, and the Bitcoin market there for a while has been kind of mirroring that sentiment, because it's the risk on, risk off, types of investments follow each other. So now this says 2023. We obviously think it'll be in 24. It's not going to happen this year as far as a pivot goes. But beware that 6 months, 5-6 months later, we could see a nasty pullback, and that kind of coincides with after the halvening, right? Now, if they do it in March and things decide to take off, well, a little pullback may be healthy. So it could be decent timing, where if it does rip right after the halvening, give it 6 months for a little healthy pullback. Could be good for the markets to kind of self-correct and realign, and then take off again. So but just beware that this is the history, and obviously we say it all the time, it's the same until it isn't, right? So you kind of have to expect it. Now, you said earlier that they're talking March for their first reduction.
The Bank of America speculated that they think the Fed will start cutting in March. That's
interesting. We speculated May or June all along till things happen. But if they're in a hurry to get those money printers going burr again, then it happens a little bit earlier. If these wars, I heard a rumor today that basically the war in Ukraine has been pretty much done, and they're just trying to get another round of funding in. So we'll see what happens there.
I can't imagine them asking us they're asking the United States for money.
Yeah, go figure. I can't believe it.
Huh.
But anyway,
I haven't heard that one before.
But yeah, this is so, even if it's March, and then, you go 6 months after that, you're looking into September, October, until there's the pullback or correction from the pivot itself. So just something to keep in mind. It's an very interesting chart, which is still, overall still up and to the right, as with all the charts kind of go that way if you pull back far enough. But still, it's something to take into consideration.
It's really interesting to see what the max drawdowns are. I mean, that for the stock market is like colossal, especially now 2007. Obviously, there's other circumstances going on right around that time. So that might be why we see the bigger drop there. But yeah, I mean, you're looking at a 30+% drop off at some point, probably for the stock market, which makes a lot of sense. I mean, again, we're at all-time highs right now for the stock market. So I'm sure we'll probably see that after the pivot does come. And then for crypto, we'll have to see. I mean, I think we're definitely going to have a pullback. I don't know if it'll be to those kind of proportions, although that wouldn't really be that strange of a thing for Bitcoin anyway. And it depends on where we're at that point. That's leading into the halving. March would be a very interesting time for them to pivot because, as you said, Ewok, like, what, a month before the halving, basically, I think we'll already that might be around time where we're starting to gear up again and the market's going back up before a sell-off by the halving.
Yeah.
So yeah, that could coincide. Either way, I mean, March, May, whatever. I think that's right around the time we will see the pivot happen. And not long after that is when we're going to see the money printing. I mean, like Janet Yellen saying that again, if you guys missed it or if anybody just joined, but her saying last week, there's no reason for investors to feel nervous about the U.S. debt. I mean, what are you talking about here? So you want everybody buying in now and it's going to dump later. I mean, that's just the way it's going to go. So, yeah, we know what they're all about. So very interesting chart. I'm glad you found that. We'll kind of see where we go after the pivot does happen here in 2024. Let's turn our attention to this. So this is a big thing. Go back to crypto. This is a big thing that happened last week that's really important that we talk about. If you guys are here and enjoying the stream so far, do us a favor, hit the like button. We very much appreciate it. We do this every single Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I want to look at this Ledger issue that happened last Thursday. And this was a big thing. And shout out to anybody in the chat. Let us know. I mean, you don't have to if you don't want to, but what you use for your wallet, basically, if you do use a hardware wallet, whether you use a Ledger or a Trezor or something else. But Ledger, I would venture to say, I'd have to look this up, but I would think that they're probably the most popular hardware wallet right now, even still beyond Trezor, even though Trezor, I think, has had the edge now for years because of a lot of Ledger's mistakes. But so Ledger, essentially what happened is front-end contacts on DApp front ends like Revoke Cash, CalSwap, SushiSwap. There was a few that were compromised.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was actually with that Ledger Live feature, or I think it was that. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. It turned out to be a former employee's account that still had access to the Ledger Live updates. Is where they got in. Now, was it the ex-employee or was it a hack? Really, I don't think we're ever going to know. But yes, Ledger. Well, they've been working that way for a while now. When they compromised everybody's data the first time, that was a couple of years ago, when they had a huge leak of all the people that had purchased Ledger. And now you've got this where, you just wonder why an ex-employee still has access to that type of thing. It just makes no sense to me. And it's like just carelessness. And really, do you want your crypto being protected by carelessness? Like, I don't know. It just doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. But that's how they got in. That's how they did the update. And what it was a drainer. Essentially, if you approved the transaction, it essentially just drained, I think, all the Ethereum or ERC20. I only heard about Ethereum getting drained. It was like, because it was only approving like one transaction, but it drained it immediately. So the second you approved it, it was gone. I didn't hear of anything like Hex being staked or anything like that was affected, maybe just because everybody was pretty on top of it, but yeah, it was definitely the carelessness has got to be fixed.
Well, they've had issues for a while, like you said. They leaked a bunch of customer information. Basically, anybody that had ever purchased a Ledger, that was all leaked out before. I mean, at this point, I don't know how you say that they shouldn't be avoided at all costs. I mean, there's no way. I just based on the customer leaking thing a few years ago, I mean, that was one of the reasons that I decided to go. Not only that, but I think Trezor is just, more so withstood the test of time. I think last I knew it was Trezor Model T was like their top of the line model as far as a hardware wallet goes. That's what I personally would be interested in. But this has just gone on for. Oh, and let me ask you this, because I've witnessed people saying this the other day, and I don't know. Certainly, I would say in comparison to a Ledger anyway, but people are arguing now for hot wallets to be used over cold wallets or hardware wallets like this again, because of things like this happened. It is a company that you're dealing with. What do you make of that argument, Ewok? Whether it is a MetaMask, even though we know that they're kind of slowly trudging toward the centralization way of things. But some of these other wallets we've talked about, Rabby, Internet Money, all these different wallets, Aurochs. Is there a case to go back to using a hot wallet? That makes it sound like dangerous, but you know what I mean. A
Yeah.
traditional crypto wallet rather than cold storage when stuff like this happens.
Well, I mean, there are obviously things to be said for the hardware wallets. I do believe, and I forgot to bring this up a couple minutes ago, but I think Ledger also had stated at one point that they had some sort of backdoor. So if the FBI were to ever, pursue or serve them, um, they had some sort of backdoor into their devices as well.
Mhm.
So that was probably, I don't know, 6-8 months ago when that came out.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're really in trouble. They're just for all of the above. Um, you know, eh, as for hardware wallets or the hot wallets,
Mhm.
um, you know, there are things you can do to use them and still be probably just as safe. And one of them is to get a computer that you only do crypto on,
Right.
which is, even with a hardware wallet, it's a method that I use, to have a computer that is strictly just for that. No emails, no other websites or anything like that where there's a chance of any kind of spyware or um, key tracker or key logger, I guess is the word I'm looking for,
Mhm.
to be installed. So something to be said for it. And no matter what type of wallet, your seed words are your seed words, right? You can move from different type. You can go from MetaMask to Aurochs to Coinbase wallet to internet money. For as far as that goes, you can use those seed words to pick your favorite one. So that is one thing that I hope people realize and know is the seed words. You're not stuck with something with one type of wallet just because you created it on MetaMask. You're not stuck with MetaMask. So
Right.
it's good to know for the novice guys that you can switch products and go with something if something were to come out. If Richard ever decides to build a wallet, those seed words could be imported easily into that. So something to consider and think about. But yeah, I mean, with all the the chances of them being involved, it's just one extra step. It's one extra middleman that we've tried to get rid of. So I don't know.
Mhm.
Everybody's if you were to ask Papa B, what he says, it's hardware wallet all the way. Other
Mhm.
people are like, it's fine. Just be very extremely careful with it and don't really ever enter those to a wallet that's connected to the internet. So you know,
Yeah.
you're going to have both. You're going to have both, and I don't think there is a right way or a wrong way. But as long as you're careful and your security is up there, whether you're using a separate computer, whether you're disconnected from the internet when you're entering the words, there's several ways to do it. So just be careful.
Right.
Nothing's foolproof.
Um, DJ Moonboy here with the Pink Floyd comment. As sorry, go ahead. Pink Floyd eloquently said, "Is there anybody out there?" Yeah, exactly. Comfortably numb. One of my son's favorite songs, actually. But something I wanted to say about that too, that you were getting to, Ewok, is I think probably the biggest thing to recommend for security is not so much like which wallet are you using? Are you using Trezor, Ledger, MetaMask, whatever? I think it's more so spreading the wealth, so to speak. I think
Yeah.
it's more so having multiple wallets. You don't have to get so complex that you obviously you don't want to be losing track of it yourself. But
Well, and then if someone happens to you, you think about your family if they have to try and recover it and figure it out too. So, you better have damn good instructions if you're going to have 50 different wallets.
right.
Unless you want it gone forever.
Exactly. Yeah. At least have, whatever, 3, 4, 5. It's up to the individual. I mean, how much do you have in crypto? What do your bags look like? And what are you comfortable with? So I think that's the main thing, is spread it around. But yeah, internet money, to DJ and Moonboy's credit. Yeah. I mean, I haven't converted anything over there yet. Crypto Coffee just had another great stream with KG, the creator of internet money. And, I'm waiting and seeing, with anything in crypto. I mean, I do trust KG. I like the way internet money looks and everything. It's probably the number one I would be jumping to out of any new options that are out there. With anything in crypto, I just like to let dust settle for a while, plain and simple. I mean, it's not like anything I don't trust about him or it. I just want to wait on it a little bit. But that would probably be the number one wallet I would be willing to go to. How about you, Ewok?
Yeah, I agree for now. Was it Rabby that we just said about something they
Yeah.
had something that happened there? Um Aurochs is still strong. I know Randy supports that. Randy Hilarski and his group have supported Aurochs for a while, and apparently, they're solid as well. So whatever you decide, internet money looks good though. I still have not used it. I have it. I just have not done anything with it. At one point, there was an issue connecting to some front end. I think it got fixed though. Was it the Hex front end
For
for
what? I'm sorry.
internet money?
I don't know what the issue was there. I mean, there was nothing that was like a security issue, but yeah,
N-
they were worried. They were
Right. You just couldn't use it for something. It
on
was,
some things. Yeah,
yeah.
I forget
So
what it was, but
yeah.
um, yeah, Nomad, you're correct. Yeah, in terms of what happened with Ledger, it wasn't like some kind of just a hack. It was connecting specifically. And actually, I mean, you could argue that it wasn't all Ledger's fault. I mean, the blame is definitely on them though. But yeah, it was just certain front ends that had that software of theirs built into their front end had an issue the other day. And again, it
Right.
was like with CalSwap, SushiSwap, there's a few other ones, but many dApps and DEXs came out and said like, hey, we don't have any affiliation with this. It's not built into ours. So even if you are using a ledger, you won't have any issues here. So yeah,
Right.
not to create any undue fear to anybody, but that, it was a selection of different front ends. So,
And it was patched within an hour or two anyway.
mhm.
So unless unless you did click on that pop up, but it was an approval pop up, is what it was, thinking that there was a transaction that made you think there was a transaction that you had to approve, and when you did, that's what got you. So
Yeah.
again,
Yeah.
always double check what you're clicking on.
Always be careful out there. I mean, you can't say it enough. I mean, I even catch myself sometimes just like I'll quickly go to a DEX or a site that I visit, frequently. And I always just check like, okay, is my, connection secure, or yeah, is this a secure site or whatever it is. If you're using, PulseChain IPFS links, obviously you're good. But yeah, I mean, I always like to double check that stuff. So let's move on to something that happened Friday. So it's so funny. Like I take these notes throughout the week, Ewok, and by the time we get to the next show, this is totally out of the crypto consciousness already. You know what I
Yep.
mean? Like just a couple days later, but these were big pieces of news. So on Friday, everybody's favorite three-letter agency, the SEC, denied Coinbase's petition requesting transparency in rules and regulations for crypto. Nothing new. I mean, we're all so sick of these guys. It's unbelievable. Gary Gensler, when is he going to leave? I mean, it's just, they're abysmal. I mean, they're just corrupt frauds. But I skimmed Gensler's response to them. Basically, he said that all crypto are securities, even though they haven't proven that or anything yet, and that they're not going to provide any further clarification. So they just basically said, you should know these are all securities and operate that way, even though, we're not going to, in a court of law, tell you that they are. And actually, if anything, we are going to lose in the precedent-setting lawsuit against XRP and Ripple. So the thing is here, original securities laws were written, more closer to Civil War time than today. All right, so this is the stuff that was written when it was written is not relevant. There was no existence of cryptocurrency. Nobody knows anything about cryptocurrency, or maybe certainly could have never have even dreamed of it at that time. So yeah, just more hasty, pathetic behavior by the SEC. here's my question to you, Ewok. This is nothing new. And then later that day, Coinbase actually did file a lawsuit back against the SEC again. They kind of keep going back and forth with these guys after the denial of the transparent crypto regulation. So kudos to Brian Armstrong and Coinbase for fighting back against Gary Gensler, as they've done many times before.
Yeah.
But I got to ask you this, Ewok, and, I'm not alluding to any specific open cases or anything like that. But when it comes to the SEC and people attacking them back, punching back whenever they get punched down on, what do you think some of this extra hasty behavior by the SEC, looking really like shit to everybody here when it comes to this Coinbase lawsuit? What could this mean for other open cases or, other lawsuits being filed by the SEC and just other pending cases that they already have going on? I mean, we've talked about it before. Judges are human beings and they are seeing this stuff from the SEC. And, when you look at a Brian Armstrong, when you look at Coinbase and you see how compliant they've been and, desiring, more clarity and not getting it, it really makes the SEC look bad.
Sure does.
Yeah. So how do you think this could affect other cases right now? And do you think more people that are just getting these frivolous lawsuits by the SEC, wink, wink, could go on the offensive and do something back, which we're going to get to more specifically here in a bit?
Yeah, the second part especially. I know that there is if you look back at one of the RH tweets, it mentioned about how a company can, like, somebody acting through the company can shield the things they say. But when they don't make these determinations or clarity rules or anything like that, and just say it, well, I'm not speaking for them, so then you're speaking on your own when you say all this stuff, they're not shielded. So people can directly go after Gensler and countersuit. I know Crypto Coffee had put out a tweet the one day that mentioned, I wonder, or maybe it wasn't, I don't know who it was. I think it was Coffee, but either way, that mentioned, I wonder how many people will actually file a suit because of the things that he's saying and doing against, one of the things that they own. He's not acting on behalf of the SEC if he's speaking on his own accord. And what kind of implications will this have? Now, I think that I think that a lot of these things, and you're right, the judges are going to see all this. They do see it. They know what's going on. So, the longer certain things wait, or the longer they take to actually transpire, it's going to be interesting to see how many regular rules or things that they've ruled on happen until that event, right? Most people know what I'm talking about, but it's good because we could get some clarity, we could get some rulings, and the judges could just start throwing stuff out and saying, you guys are being ridiculous. These people are all asking for some sort of clarity. You're not giving it to them. You refuse to give it to them. Why are you keep bringing this stuff up and bringing it to us when it's loss after loss after loss? Because all they're doing is citing previous determinations and using that against themselves. So, yeah, I think I think the more things that play out, the better for everybody involved. And I do think there are going to be people that are going to say, screw you. You've come after us enough. You've tried to extort so much money. Who was it? Gemini that just got, or Kraken. It was Kraken that got hit twice within a year. They paid them the first time and then they came back around again. So yes, I think these guys are going to start getting fed up and say, we'd rather spend the money on lawyers and countersue them for the damages and maybe get some of that money back. So I applaud them for it. I think it's the way to go. If you don't fight them, they're going to keep taking advantage of it. It's like the bully that keeps picking on you until you sock him in the jaw. He's probably going to keep picking. So we need to get enough people to punch him in the face. And maybe they'll start letting people alone.
Were you ever bullied by anybody that looked like Gary Gensler?
No.
I can't imagine him creeping up on you to give you a wedgie and hang you in your locker or
Yeah,
something.
I'd
I
be
don't know.
worried about
Actually,
him.
he was probably the one bullied, I imagine.
Yeah, probably. That's
That
probably
explains
why
all
he
of it.
does it. Yeah, he probably got picked on, and he's the one that got the wedgies.
Exactly. Yeah, now he's giving America a big wedgie.
Yep.
Yeah, so yeah, kudos to Coinbase, kudos to Brian Armstrong for firing back there. And yes, I definitely think more people are going to do this. I mean, at this point, this is why when I see whether it's tweets, YouTube video comments, whatever, by people that are like, "Oh my god, what about a pending SEC case? What about the SEC?" These guys carry no weight anymore.
Mm.
Like in that, something like the PulseChain ecosystem took a big dip whenever we heard that news back on July 31st. Okay, yeah, there's like a short-term outcome from that, but in terms of like them really doing anything that affects much, they don't, and they
Yep.
shouldn't be feared, and especially Gary Gensler shouldn't be feared. I mean, pretty much nobody is in favor of the guy. So,
Yep.
yeah, kudos to Coinbase. I'm glad they're firing back. We'll see how that works out. But these things take forever, obviously. And I imagine Gensler won't be around to see the culmination of all of it. So,
We hope
um,
anyway.
yeah, yeah. So this next one, there's just been some crazy kind of big shifts and some things in crypto this past week. So I want to get to USDT and Tether here in a moment, the stable coin. Before that, though, more you guys are pouring into the chat tonight. Do us a favor, hit the like. We appreciate you being here. We're going to take a look at what Tether is doing. So we just talked about Ledger, the wallet, a moment ago, and why we have no desire to ever use it again. Tether is the stable coin that is absolutely hands off. Nobody should ever touch again at this point. So the Tether CEO details partnership with FBI and Secret Service in letter to legislators. Have I scared you enough? According to blockchain data. So Tether froze a total of, and we already kind of knew this was going on, but Tether froze a total of 161 Ethereum wallets, although 150 of those wallets currently hold no USDT tokens. Okay, so they froze Ethereum wallets that don't even have Tether in them anymore. USDT should be avoided at all costs at this point. Yeah, and honestly, I think that I said this to you the other day, Ewok. I'm not really interested in using USDC anymore either. I mean, there's not been any issues with it so far. We haven't seen any kind of freezing of accounts because they don't like who you're associating with or anything like that. But as long as this censorship type stuff is going to begin and these guys are going to all cuck out like this, I think it's probably a matter of time until USDC does it too. And I'm all aboard the DAI train, DAI, DAI. I know we've kind of talked about that before, but first off, what do you make about this news with Tether? Because this is extreme. And what alternatives are you looking at here now?
Well, we talked about the True USD, TUSD, and Coast and DAI. Those are the three that I'm going to be using moving forward. Anytime they freeze a wallet that doesn't even have it. Well, so what they do is they blacklist your wallet. Your camera's off,
Yeah,
right?
I'll
Okay.
fix it. Yeah.
So what they do is they blacklist your wallet. So any kind of funds that come out to an exchange or any kind of off ramp, it won't happen. It won't be allowed. So that's how they freeze it. When they say that it's frozen, that's what they're doing. They're stopping you from offboarding. They can't stop it from transacting. You could probably buy and sell, as far as I know. There really is no way to freeze a wallet. However, they can blacklist it, and certain exchanges that may be in cahoots will not accept a deposit. Definitely off ramps will not allow you to switch to USD. But as far as that goes, they've gotten smart too. When you create another wallet, and if you start sending something from that wallet to a new wallet, it will associate it and it will automatically be coming up on a blacklist as well. So you just have to be really careful and stay away from them. If you haven't used them yet, they have this power. You talk about USDC, which is owned by Circle.
Right.
I mean, I know Coinbase uses it a lot. It's pretty much their go-to default stablecoin. But we know the possibilities there. So
Yeah.
Yeah, we got to use the ones that are safe, and like I said, I think I think Coast is great as far as PulseChain goes for off and on there, and then you've got the true USDT as well. So
Yeah.
those are the three I would be looking at using if you haven't already.
Yeah, I think well, Coast is specific to PulseChain, obviously, but yeah,
Right.
as far as most things you want to do. And I mean, there's not even necessarily anything wrong with just buying Ethereum off the rip, wherever you get it on an exchange and then sending it to your ultimate destination. I mean, that kind of gets you the pay to play anywhere you want to having ETH. So,
Right.
that's always a possibility there too. But yeah, Tether, I mean, definitely avoided at all costs. They're just blacklisted by me now. So, yeah, it's unfortunate to see an option go, but frankly, I'd never used Tether, I think, ever once anyway. So, not that big of a deal, really, I guess, in terms of that. But another one bites the dust, plain and
Yep.
simple. We'll just have to move on from them. Let's get into some juicy stuff from Richard Hart from this past Wednesday, the 13th of December. So one day, it was so funny. And again, this is why I go back to like, it's so quick, this market. I mean, like, and the sentiment in it and everything. I can't even believe people were actually thinking or saying this. It was because it was like one Twitter dipshit account that they just basically followed along with. But one day after everybody, for some asinine reason, thought he was never returning to Twitter and referencing his bio that was updated like over a month ago, I guess everybody just now, or like one guy saw that, he said he doesn't use Twitter or something in his bio. And then a bunch of people flipped out about it, thought it was new, followed this account, blah, 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 blah. And I guess I thought it was just a joke, but I mean, many people actually thought he was gone or something forever from Twitter. I don't know. So anyway, one day after that debacle, and again, it was like some of the most bearish sentiment I can remember in some time. And I mean, that was only a week ago. Like, think about that right now with like the pump that we've had today and like B Roots on Rand's show and blah, 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 Yahoo Finance, all this stuff. Just a week ago, it was like insanely bearish sentiment. But anyway, so a first tweet that RH did put out last Wednesday was, did you know the IRS and the SEC and the Federal Register are all acting as custodians of cryptocurrency via their comments sections, which I actually bookmarked that one as well. That was just the beginning of it. Go back to it here real quick. Yeah, there we go. They have seed words with money in them. They also have seed words with time-locked Bitcoin in them. They're also hosting Uniswap code in PDF form. Do they also owe tax on those seed words they received? They don't even know what else those seed words might control via different derivation paths and depths, which he's right about that. Yeah. I mean, like if they've seized anything like that, they really have no idea the lengths that those can go. But what do you make of that, Ewok? I mean, he's basically calling out that they own all this stuff, and like, are they going to be liable for taxes on any of it or anything? What did you make of this initial tweet from him last Wednesday?
I thought it was quite interesting. The one thing I did think about it, and I know there's been discussion of taxing for unrealized gains.
Jesus. Yeah. I think that's another Yellen invention right there.
Probably so. It's just asinine to even think about it. But if that's the case, all those accounts that they did seize, they would be responsible for paying unrealized capital gains on them, which is funny. And all the airdrops that come with them, they should be claiming those.
Right.
When you break it down to it, all of that. But it opens a can of worms that I don't think they even think about. I don't know. Does the government even pay taxes on stuff like that anyway? Probably not. You know what I mean? They probably have an exemption, but it does make you think and really wonder. But yeah, there was a whole bunch of FUD about it. That just. And then a day later, he tweets like they really thought he was gone. I just thought that was pretty ridiculous. We all know that Richard's in it for the glory, and that hasn't happened yet. So he's not going anywhere, people. I just, make it well known that he'll be around for a while at least before he pulls a Satoshi and rides off into the sunset.
It was comical to me that people actually thought that, and then yeah, one day later he just tweets. I didn't think it was real. I didn't think people actually did believe that, but apparently they do when emotions are low like that. So definitely interesting for him to bring that up. The next thing, going back to some of the SEC stuff that we were talking about a little bit ago, that he said specifically about the SEC. He said the SEC is pretending that hugging is punching and charging parents with battery as an analogy. Another analogy would be that the SEC is like a highway patrolman trying to write astronauts tickets for speeding. It's a violation of due process, free speech, freedom of association, freedom of contract, and torturous interference. It's arbitrary and capricious choosing of winners and losers in technology protocols. I don't think he could say that any better. I mean, that's exactly what they are doing. They're just picking and choosing the ones that they want to go after and protecting the ones that they don't. It also de facto bans vastly outside congressional intent for their mandate. Sadly, the administrative state is rife with such overreach and basically denial of service, attacking the judicial branch. Gensler is on record stating this is something to the effect of, if you're not losing cases, you're not bringing enough, which is interesting. This is all, of course, unconstitutional, and losing cases seems to have little effect. He's right about that. They just pretend that hugs are punches in the next case again. Federal employees take oaths to uphold the Constitution. So, yeah, I mean, I don't think he could lay it out better than that. What thoughts do you have on some of what he said about the SEC there?
Oh, well, we know they're just overreaching. They're trying to do what they can. It's an extortion racket, is really what it comes down to. And he's saying that in not so many words, but
Yeah,
it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous overreach, and he's just kind of laying it out. So yeah,
yeah,
that's about it. I mean, there isn't a whole lot to say about. I mean,
true.
he laid it out pretty well, and everybody's kind of witnessing it now. Like I said earlier, I hope the judges finally see it for what it is, and just say, stop bringing this stuff to us until you have something substantial and real. We don't want to hear it, So
Yeah, yeah.
we can hope.
The last one that he said, now this is where it gets really juicy, and this goes back to what we were talking about earlier with Brian Armstrong and Coinbase firing back and suing the SEC. So Richard Hart last Wednesday said, when you sign as an officer of a company, instead of personally, your company acts as a shield. You were mentioning this earlier, Ewok. For some reason, SEC operatives like to speak not on the behalf of the SEC, which I figure means they're speaking on behalf of themselves. So when someone prejudices nearly all cryptos to be securities, it sounds like torturous interference to me and has a real world measurable effect on markets, which sounds like damages to me. The duality of working hard to get rid of your qualified immunity shield and speak not on behalf of an agency always seemed risky for SEC employees to be doing. I do wonder what countries might bring charges against people acting outside their authority and outside their qualified immunity for torturous interference and market manipulation. Perhaps even libel and slander. I'm not a lawyer, though, nor a professional of any kind, so who cares what I think? So RH dropping some not so subtle bombs there with that one. This got me fired up. I think it did a lot of people whenever they read it. And yeah, I mean, we are seeing it. We're seeing it with Coinbase. I could see Kraken, if they have the money, putting something together as well. And there will be more. But what do you make of this? I mean, maybe specifically with RH. What do you think? I mean, what is he really getting at here? Because he's definitely painting a case for somebody like Gary Gensler acting for himself and speaking for himself, not his agency.
I think he's painting a case for some wealthy Hexicans to maybe start a class action lawsuit.
Yeah.
Why not? That's kind of how I interpreted it. When he says, who cares what I think? Well, a lot of people care what he thinks because, again, he's usually a couple steps ahead of most people and their thought process when going through all this stuff. I just think that it could happen it'd be a very interesting, there's already been one class action lawsuit, and I think it's still kind of in the works in the background. The one with the coin market cap thing, I think they appealed it and it's gone back through the courses. But I think it would be pretty awesome to see many people within this class action lawsuit that say you harmed us, you harmed what we were doing. There's a clear drop in the charts when you announce what you announced, and
Right.
really not fair, because this is coming from you on a lot of ends and not the SEC. So yeah, should be interesting to see how it all plays out. And I think there could be a case there. I'm not a
I'm
lawyer, but I don't know. Do you?
Yeah, I'm pretty confident it's going to happen. Honestly, I don't think he would be talking that way if not. I don't think it's just a threat. I think it's probably what he's likely to do. So, or he again, he does actually specify in there what other countries actually bringing charges against people. So,
True.
yeah, it is interesting because and it's a great point. Like the SEC, and I know we have viewers that say this sometimes, and I see it on other crypto channels, but they say, hey guys, like not everybody lives in the United States. We get that. We're not here telling you that you need to listen to what's going on in our country, because we're in favor of what's going on or anything like that. But the bottom line is it affects the whole world. That's what really sucks. And that's what happens when a shitty agency of unelected losers like the SEC do come and file false allegations like that against somebody. All they have to do is file a lawsuit. They don't even have to have their day in court, and then they can ruin people
Yep.
in an instant. I mean, that affects the world. It doesn't just affect the United States. So I mean, they're people holding these tokens in this crypto all across the entire world. And yeah, I mean, we're not in favor of it or anything. It's just that they're a U.S. agency that does have an effect on the entire world. That's something to keep in mind, and I'm glad that Richard mention that other countries could bring something against them too. So it would certainly be nice to see Gary Gensler himself have to go on trial for what he's doing anyway. So yeah, I would look out for it. I think that this is definitely going to happen at some point here. It already is to a degree, but if he starts. Gensler, I think, is getting a little bit too comfortable in his role and thinks that he's going to be able to just, pull one over on all these different entities, and it's just not going to happen. So, and they're losing every case that they throw out there right now. So,
Pretty much. Yep.
yeah. Let's get to something that you just talked about a moment ago, Ewok. You talked about at the top of the show, actually, and another example talking about like this ecosystem, this community doing stuff from, pulling up their own bootstraps and doing stuff on their own. But RH tweeted today actually about a PulseChain, a bot to get people the Pulse token for when they actually do bridge over into PulseChain, or if it were on an exchange to help newly bridged people whenever they get over there. Now, I don't know about Pulse actually going onto an exchange, but if there were a way that you could say buy native Pulse on an exchange and then send it to a PulseChain wallet, would be interesting. I don't have any delusions that we're going to see it on an exchange anytime soon. But yeah, basically calling for some kind of bot to be able to help people to get a little bit of Pulse whenever they get over there. Some of us had that issue when it actually launched back in May of 2023. We had a couple of Pulse faucets out there to help people out. Legit within, and I don't know if maybe it could have already been being worked on, but within a matter of hours, if that, Pulse Coin List already started a bot for the Bridge Buddy, it's called. I'll have to bring that up here again.
Yep.
But Pulse Coin List already started, and you mentioned it earlier, Ewok. Go real deep, or get all my damn sites messed up. GoPulse.com. Yeah.
Yep.
Doing one as well. And I'm going to put the link to this Bridge Buddy from Pulse Coin List in the chat. But what do you make of this idea from Richard? I think it's great, especially because, we haven't even mentioned this, but the bridge fees are gone. So it's free other than shitty Ethereum transaction fees. But what do you make of this and the fact that, this community's already got stuff up and rolling and trying to get people Pulse as soon as they bridge over?
Well, one of the things that we did, was it last week or 2 weeks ago, was kind of did the quick walkthrough on how to buy native Pulse, the wrapped Pulse from Uniswap, and bridge that over. That's still honestly your easiest method for now, until these things become available, because what you have to realize is it does take donations. People are going to have to donate. I've seen several people say, I'll throw in 100 million, or I'll throw in whatever it was toward the cause for doing this, which is awesome. But we want people to maintain their wealth and not just give it away too. So it's going to be, you know, an interesting thing. And I kind of really wish that the, what was it, freepulse.com, the faucet
Yeah.
slash gambling site. There was a couple games on there you could gamble with. Um, I thought that was a great idea, and they just kind of vanished. They had a working product with the test net. I really wish that it would have stayed, because even still, there's a free Bitcoin faucet out there that is very similar. You can play the dice games and gamble your Bitcoin away, but you can get rewarded with a couple satoshis every hour, I think.
Hmm.
And it's variable. You have a chance to win up to like 0.002 or something like that. So you know, it's neat. I'm glad that the community is taking the initiative once again. But the part I don't like is, like I said, you know, there's going to have to be a bunch of donations. If we could get 1,000 people to donate, I don't know, 10,000,
Hmm.
that way better than one person having to give up 100 million, I think. But um, again, it just shows you how vibrant this community is and how they're willing to step up and build things. Um, and yeah, but right now, until these things are done, like I said, still the best way to bridge over is to buy the wrapped pulse. And if you didn't see our video a couple weeks ago, you did chop it up, didn't you? I think you put,
Yeah, yeah, it's out there. It's like 21, 23 minutes or something like that. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, but we
So
do have a tutorial that was just posted the other day on how to, what we think anyway is the best way to get Pulse by, bridge over to PulseChain and then actually buying it. And yeah, there's some dissenting opinions there. I mean, like basically what we said was to start off with a stable coin of some sort and then like trade it for basically you start off with like a die, send it over to your wallet, then use we were talking about using matcha for limit orders where you could then trade that for the wrapped pulse WPLS and then just bridge that over.
right,
Some people I think get confused that we were talking about like using that, paying an ETH fee to swap it for WPLS, which we're not, because if you use matcha limit orders, those are free. You will not pay a fee by doing that. Instead of that, though, if you want to just buy, one thing and bridge it straight over, you can totally do that. You don't have to get WPLS first, but that's one way that as soon as you do send it over there, it'll be just native Pulse anyway, as soon as it gets there. So
right. And if you don't have any pulse, you need that to do your first transaction anyway. And that was
yeah,
the reason why we talked about doing it that way.
right.
If you buy wrapped dye or something like that, you're going to be stuck if you don't have any pulse to begin with. So, as far as your first transaction, um, I would recommend doing it that way just so you do have the pulse. Then it kind of opens up your options of the different things that you can do.
I totally agree. Because then you get it over there, you've got enough to play with, then that you can go any direction you want to there,
Yep.
as long as
Yep.
you don't even need that much. I mean, you just need a little bit, and then once you're
Yeah.
over there, but why not just make your whole stack, wrapped pulse, get it over there, and then DCA into whatever you want to. So,
Yep.
yeah, I think that's the way to do it. So, really cool though that they've already got this up and going to help people out as soon as they bridge over there. I think we're going to see more and more of that stuff being built. It's just so cool that literally, like, no association, Richard Hart, doesn't know these people. Doesn't. I mean, we don't. They're not, out there in public and docs necessarily. The people that run GoPulse or whatever else, Pulse Coin List, and they're just out there creating this stuff already. So very, very cool for sure.
Yep.
I want to transition to our final topic, and it is the topic of the poll, which I was actually wrong in my assumption of how the voting would end up. So we asked in the poll question tonight, and this is an interesting question because, depending upon when you consider the actual Bitcoin top from the last bull market. So there was one in April. We all refer to it as the double top, but in April it was about 64, 65K. And then in November of 2021, we hit that 69. We'll just say it was 69, 420. But which one was the actual top? Because some people, have thought for a while that it was kind of the precursor to that DeFi summer, and that April of 21 was the real top. And I think a lot of people, Sami's actually been talking about this. A lot of people after that happened, and you can understand why, because Bitcoin went from 65K down into the 30s again over the course of that summer. Many people are like, okay, that was the top. But then we rallied back up in November of 21. Bitcoin hit a new all-time high of 69K. And, I was going to say it was off to the races, but it really wasn't, because that was it. And then it petered out in December. Overwhelmingly, the poll results show that November of 21 was the actual top at 83%. 17% say April of 21. I guess I can get this because, it was technically the higher number, and it came later on. But this is an interesting one. And I guess that really answers my question, because we're trying to figure out what will the market actually call the top of the last bull cycle, so we can kind of game out this bull cycle. If it is November of 21, that leads me to believe that the majority of this year could be slow. This year meaning 24, obviously. Then maybe we don't have that kind of left translated thing, and everything moves early because of the BlackRock ETF. That maybe we are a little bit slower here, and things really pick up a little under a year from now. Not saying we're going to be moving up, no moving up for a year. I think we will, but I think things could be getting serious by this time next year. If this is what most people think. I have a follow-up to that, a tweet from Bob Loukas the other day, who we here in the Hex community love. But let me get your thoughts on that first, Ewok. Would you tend to agree with the poll results here? And how do you think that could affect this coming bull cycle?
Yeah, I voted on that as well. And I think that November was the top. It was the double top. And, if you listen to what Richard says, he made the top call in April, and it was in profit every day, except I think there were 2 days there that it wasn't. But when it went up and then it closed and then it went back down, there were 2 days where it wasn't in profit, and it only went up like, I don't know, it went from 65 to 69K. So there wasn't a whole lot of difference there. And I do agree. And we were looking at it before we started the stream. We were looking at some of the charts and where they actually topped. And it was interesting to see that, what was it, Doge was topped in April. So some of the altcoins did actually top in April. Some of them didn't, like some of them mirrored Bitcoin. Well, obviously Ethereum mirrored Bitcoin, and some of the higher cap ones did as well. But I feel like November was the actual top. And, usually you go, 3 years or 2 anyway, before the bull gets full on going. Right. So yeah, I think this time next year we're going to be in a completely different spot. And but that, just my opinion. But we looked at some coins like Litecoin, and they never even got to a previous all-time high. So and then Hex, that topped out in September
of 21.
So and all over the place.
I think Hex obviously kind of hit its top, before I think many other altcoins did, but a lot of altcoins then hit their top for the cycle more so in that second Bitcoin top area. I'm pretty sure Phantom was one of them. Like, I know it got up in the high $3 area. Because there were people out there strongly telling you to buy it at that price, and that it's going to go to $20 this cycle. So there was a lot of that stuff going on. And I will be honest, and I don't mean to like shit on everybody who said that, because there were quite a few people, and it's easy to say it in hindsight. We're 2 years later at this point, but many people in November of 21, as Bitcoin hit that top, were like, hey, I do think we're going to go to 100K here by like the spring of next year. And really, that was, I don't know if it was a consensus, but a lot of people thought that at that time, and a lot of really smart people thought it at that time. When they should have made their adjustment was when we had these absolutely crazy, horrible couple of weeks in December, when the market just came way back down. right after that second top. But a lot of people didn't change their tune, and had a miserable last couple of years. So, yeah, so I am with you. Yeah, I think that the second one, and I'm just going to react to what the market thinks, and if that's what they're looking at it as, then yeah, I'm going to say that that's what it is. Also, so Bob Loukas the other day, which I mean, we can hate on him all we want in terms of him wanting to engagement farm like Richard Hart fans and stuff like that every now and then, but in terms, he does look at the Bitcoin 4-year cycles a lot. He posted a really controversial tweet the other day, and usually, again, the only time he's controversial is when he tries to criticize Hex or whatever. But he was projecting an 8-year gap after this Bitcoin top until we get a next one. Now, he was claiming that this would still be following the 4-year cycle, but essentially what he's saying is when we get a Bitcoin top in 24, 25, that we're going to be looking until like 2032, 2033 until there's another top in Bitcoin, that he thinks there's going to be this really long winter. And then he even speculated maybe even 12 years between for Bitcoin top. Now, here's a caveat, though. While that sounds like maniacal, the other thing that I think also sounds maybe not maniacal, but wrong, is he is also calling, though, for Bitcoin to get to 180K this cycle. So if you're calling for that high of a Bitcoin top this cycle, which again, I disagree with, I mean, I hope I'm wrong. But if you're calling for that high of one, and then he's projecting 8 years in between it breaking that again, I mean, I don't know. To me, it sounds far-fetched, but then again, he's calling for 180K. I guess I just don't agree with anything of what he's saying here in this scenario. But what do you make of that, Ewok? Because, you could, even though you would say like, oh yeah, not another new all-time high for 8 years or whatever, that, that also plays in like it hitting whatever that hypothetical number is, 180K again sometime, maybe the next cycle, but not a new all-time high until the second coming bull cycle after that. But what do you make of all of those opinions? And, we got to keep in mind too, that doesn't mean the same thing necessarily for ETH and certain altcoins along the way. So,
Well,
what do you
it
make?
almost does though. I mean, because if you look at the cycles are all around the Bitcoin halving, right? So
Mhm.
I think this time we're going from 6 point whatever down to 3 point whatever. The next halvening will go from 3 down to 1.5. So it's going to be harder and harder to get. That's why the price actually does what it does, because there is a rush to get it, knowing that the inflation model has just diminished. So that doesn't change, right? The halvening's still the halvening. I don't see that being a top. I think he's far overshooting what it really will be. Maybe not too much, but by at least 40 or 50,000, I think he's going over
Yeah.
what I think it'll be. Now, again, I'm not Bob Loukas, and he says a lot of controversial stuff. A lot of times, I think just to get engagement. I don't always think it's an actual prediction. Sometimes I think he's fishing for sentiment from
Mhm.
people
True.
to make to make a better decision. I know Sami does that a little bit too. I think he puts things out there and says things that are a little far-fetched to get
To see if
reaction,
people's
to see where the sentiment really is,
good point.
and then he can adjust his personal thoughts. And I think Loukas does that as well. But I don't see I don't see that long of a gap in between. Maybe, we've heard this mentioned by RH a lot, that the S curve is really approaching its max for Bitcoin. The massive gains have pretty much gone away at this point. Um,
Right.
Now, what does the S curve look like? Does it go up? Does it pause and then start back up again? I'm not sure how that S curve all plays out. Like in theory, I haven't done a whole lot of S curve research to know if it approaches the top as an S and then levels out and then continues again. I don't know if that's part of it, or if it really just kind of falls over. So, again, we'll have to see. But the as long as crypto has been around, that 4-year cycle has been the 4-year cycle because of the halvening. And it runs across the board into all your altcoins. Now, if you find another altcoin that may take off and go on its own, I think that could potentially happen this cycle. It'll also depend on, does Ethereum ever flip flop? Do they take that number one spot? Do the market cap flip? The flippening, does it really happen?
Yeah.
And become the number one coin? Well, that could also change the cycle. So there's a lot of things at play. I just don't see an 8-year gap. That would be one of the worst bear markets ever, and I think by then you just lose people. So
Well,
I think
to clarify too, I don't think he's necessarily saying. I mean, yeah, he's saying like 8 years between a new all-time high, but I don't think he's calling it like a horrible bear market that entire time. I think he's saying in 4 years' time it comes back up and maybe gets near it, but doesn't surpass it or something.
yeah,
like
but don't you think if it only reaches the previous all-time high, imagine if Bitcoin were to only go to 70,000 this cycle. Do
Yeah.
you know how many people that would lose? Like, a
Oh
lot of
well.
people would be like, "Fuck this, I'm out."
Yeah,
It's
stupid Bitcoin.
uh,
Yeah, the stupid Bitcoin maxis. Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like, and I don't agree. I don't think this is going to happen. I'm just saying that like the Bitcoin is diminishing gains. Now, I don't think this is going to happen. I also don't think it's going to 180K this cycle. But either way, we should expect far less returns for Bitcoin than it used to do. I
yeah,
don't think that is going to change. I mean, you're right, Ewok. Like, I mean, in terms of like the halvening and the cycles lining up, yes, I agree with you that like ETH and alts that have already existed should kind of follow those patterns with BTC. But I'm also saying that there's going to be new altcoins. So while I guess the headline of this Loukas tweet is a grim sounding one, like, oh my God, not another new all time high for Bitcoin for 8 years or whatever. There's always going to be new opportunities, with new alts, new things that we don't even, 4 years on. My God, we couldn't even name yet or anything.
right.
So I guess I'm just saying that, like, I don't think he's necessarily saying it's going to be a bear market for 8 years, but not another good BTC bull market. And yes, to answer your question, I do think that would lose people, and I think Bitcoin is going to continue to lose people because,
Yep.
I mean, right now people are having the worst returns on Bitcoin that have gotten into this market a cycle ago than its history.
Yeah.
So that's
Well,
going to continue. But yeah, I don't agree with the Bob Loukas thing. I just wanted to see, since we're talking about cycles and, when we think the last top may have been, what you thought of his opinion there. So
yeah,
that's all.
that's my thoughts.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm not with him either. But yeah, I think Bitcoin, I don't know. I think we should be planning for anywhere between 80 and, man, maybe almost double that this cycle. But the thing that I'm confused about is time. I mean, that's why we're having this conversation tonight. I mean, when does it get started in earnest? When does it end? Does the BlackRock ETF sell-off impacted that horribly? I don't know. I know Axis Alive has long been saying that he thinks this one goes into 2026, which would be very interesting. I mean, if that happens, I don't think there's really any bad scenario out of it.
Yeah.
Whether that is kind of doing a left translated thing here early and then coming back up maybe towards like another year, the end of 2025. But yeah, there's a lot. Either way, you're not going to lose by being in the game. And,
Right.
we try to time these things out all the time. You can really bog yourself down and get into the weeds too much and think like, oh man, I'm going to mess this cycle up. That's why we just try to calm down and have a longer time horizon, not meaning that, we won't want to take profits this cycle. Clearly you want to do that,
Yeah.
and have a plan for it. But just remember that, like, there's this condensed time over this next couple of years. And if you don't get it right, your life is screwed. You shouldn't look at it that way, but you should develop a plan anyway for taking
Yeah.
profits. So,
Well, Mr. Chinks brings up a very, very good quote that says, "Time in the market beats trying to time the market." So,
yeah. Amen. Charlie Munger, rest in peace. I don't know if he said it or Warren Buffett or
yeah,
who,
I don't know.
but
I don't
one of
either,
those
but
guys. Yeah.
It's accurate.
Yeah. And shout out to Philly here. Exactly.
Oh,
Oh,
sorry.
my bad. My bad.
Sorry.
Shout out to Philly. Hopefully most of us loaded up the previous few months. Exactly. Like this train is going to leave the station. We might even see the start of it happening right now, and people laugh at that all the time, but like there's a lot of alts right now that are like 3x up off their lows, and people are pissed off that they can't buy them anymore, or even worse, they are buying them right now.
Yeah.
You don't, PulseChain's all-time high was about 2x, 2.5x or so off of SAC rate, or whatever, 4025. You don't want to be as interested buying it then as you can right now. I mean, we still are, in my mind, auto buy chances right here, but who knows for how long. So, yeah, I think that pretty much wraps us up. I was just seeing if there's any other good comments here lately, but active chat here as the show went on. I think we had a good topic here to round off the show, and just double checking the poll. Still 81% of people think that the second Bitcoin top in November was the real one, and I do tend to agree. So any final thoughts here for you tonight, Ewok?
Yeah, I do. Some of the comments that I've seen lately regarding people and what they buy and what they hold and what they may talk about or what they may not talk about is kind of really starting to rub me the wrong way. Just because an OG who talks about Hex and talks about the RH stuff, they're allowed to buy other stuff. They're allowed to buy it and hold it, like and just because they may not talk about it, well, there's a couple reasons for that. Sometimes they're a very risky play. And the last thing that anybody would want would be to get their listeners wrecked. Now, if it does go crazy, then yeah, they didn't get in on it. But sometimes the risk is better that you don't tell people, because if it goes to shit or if it gets a rug pull or whatever it may be, your followers are going to blame you. So there's good reason why some of these people don't talk about some of that stuff. And it frustrates me when people put their nose in other people's wallet and say what you should be talking about, or saying about how people are irresponsible by not saying anything. I don't know. I wish people would worry about them damn selves and not so much what other people are doing or what they're saying. People would get along a lot better, I think, if people just mind their own business. We're all here together. We're all here for a long time. Most of us have a 5-5-5-5 stake. So need to either learn to get along or learn just, if you don't have something nice, don't say it. So just my observation over the last couple weeks about the infighting and the it's always the OGs. It's always somebody blaming OGs for this stuff. And frankly, half the OGs they just sit back and listen to the others. A lot of this stuff is brought up by traders. There are people out there that buy huge bags and then they dump them just to cause stuff like this. So if we can't learn to get over some massive dips and buy them right back up, someone had said earlier today where I'm why would you want the whales to sell? I'm like, well, first of all, good whales don't sell at these levels. If they're good whales, they're not dumping 50 billion tokens right now, or 5 billion, whatever it was that whale sold today. It was only a portion of their bag. They had like 90 billion tokens. I said good whales aren't selling, they're holding. So anyway, just wanted to get that off my chest. And
this is you. I just want to make sure that who you're talking about here specifically. Well, you're talking about yourself, and you're defending your recent buys. I know you're really into the Titan X ecosystem, and I guess somebody must have come after you. And I know you're way into the Titan X stuff. So
no, that one I haven't bought, and it's not even that, but it is. There were people talking about Titan X, people going after Marco. about him buying
Oh
it.
yeah, I saw
And,
that. I think I saw that. Yeah.
but then there are other people that are saying, well, some of these OGs are buying stuff and they're not telling people. Um, you
Why do
know,
they owe you that? That's the
r-
dumbest shit ever.
right,
That's
right.
ridiculous.
So
Yeah.
who cares if they don't talk about it? But you know, as far as I'm concerned, the things that I tell people about are the ones that have immutable code, that are locked, that are going to have a long future. Some of these other ones, man, do your research. If you want to play around in degen, I don't want to be responsible for it. I don't want to be the one that you heard it from when shit goes sideways and you lose a lot of money that could have been into something else. So
Yeah.
that's just my take on it, and why I really don't talk about a whole lot of other things, and I really don't buy a whole lot of other things. I may put $100 here or there, and I think we've discussed some of those along the way. But
Yeah.
for the most part, what's the point when you can buy some of these tokens at these prices? Like I think we would all have a better time if we were buying the core ones, and all getting rich together. That's my
Yeah.
goal.
I think so too. Especially at this point in the market when there's, the prices are still so depressed. Why wouldn't you want to be buying those? Yeah, shout out to, and I forget his name, but there's some dude that keeps going to all of our videos, not just our channels, but other PulseChain kind of DeFi focused channels, that just keeps commenting like Titan X is beasting, Titan X is a beast. And he keeps doing it on every single one of our video clips. So one day I commented on it and I said, while I do appreciate your effort here, trying to pump up your coin or whatever, you might help people by describing like what is so beast about it. Like, can you maybe explain, what it is you're so happy about, or something about it that would make people intrigued? And he never responds to anything I say about that. So
Right.
whoever you are, I'm just going to start deleting your comments, because it's just like, what's the point of going and doing this kind of a thing when you're not even gonna, if you're challenged, not even challenged. I just said like, well, what are you talking about? Like, it's easy. And frankly, I hate it when Hex people do this too. I hate being on
Yeah.
Twitter and it's just like Hex, like Hex is the truth. Oh, like all caps, exclamation. Okay. I mean, like, I get it. It's at least proved itself for a little while. I
Yeah.
understand that. But when people just say kind of, rooting for a sports team type stuff like that with no real thought or analysis, it's just kind of,
Right.
to me, it's not something I'd be interested in.
Well,
So,
all comments are good for algorithms, so
yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
If it helps get a couple more eyes on it, then great. That's why we're here, right? That's why we've been here the whole bear market, streaming and trying to help people get in the right position. So,
Yeah.
if anything, there's a lot of people that kind of just faded away and didn't do shit the whole bear market, and that's one of the
Right.
reasons why we decided that we wanted to stream weekly, and we wanted to kind of make it known that other people were going through difficult times too.
Yeah.
So you weren't alone. If anything, hopefully we helped your mental state and walked you off a ledge or two, here or there. And but that's why we decided to do this. And yeah, we're almost over. It's almost over. It's almost,
Yeah.
we're not over, but we're almost through it. We're almost through the worst part of it. And it should be blue skies from here. And yes, Merry Hexmas to you too, everybody.
Yes. Merry Hexmas, everybody. Appreciate all you guys being here as always. Great show tonight. We will be here for a post-Christmas stream next week, next Tuesday, the 26th. So we will be there. So thanks to all you guys, Philly, Chris Brune, Mr. Chinks, DJ Moonboy, of course, Hex Girl, a lot of people in the chat here tonight. Valiant Low-Key. Thank you, guys. If you enjoyed the stream, hit the like on the way out. Again, we do this every Tuesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Looks like you can hop over to Maddie Allen now if you'd like. I think I might have saw somebody else doing something here too. So appreciate all you guys. We will be back here after Christmas next week, after Hexmas, Tuesday the 26th. And until then, this has been Boi Crypto for Crypto Ewok right here on the Creed of Crypto podcast. Take it easy, guys.